I studied entrepreneurship in school. With that said, I didn't get very good grades until professors found out that the company was going well, and I started getting better grades. In fact, this is a funny story. Entrepreneur Magazine called me and they said they wanted to know about the correlation between business and grades, and I said, well, I find the better the business goes, the better my grades get. Pre that, my GPA was a full point lower than post that, but that's another story. But so I don't know. I think if I went after, it would be more than likely for the network of it. But I would agree. I think the most powerful combination you can have is an undergrad in a technical field, and then to get an MBA after, or vice versa. I think one thing I may disagree with some people is, I think a lot of being an entrepreneur you're born with or can't be taught. But the flip side is, I think there's a lot of things that have to be taught. And it's like being a great soccer player or whatever sport you want. You can have all the talent in the world, but you've got to practice day in and day out to get those skills, so when you're out on the field, you don't have to think about where you should be standing or what foot you should be kicking with or whatever it might be. You kind of know. Flip side of that is, I very barely passed all of my finance classes, so I don't know.
Every single day, I thank my lucky stars that I randomly met who is currently our CTO, Sean Lindsay, and he's the biggest asset to our company. And that's because finding somebody that is really smart technically, that can dig into the code and do the things that you need at the startup level, in addition to having the ability to hire and cultivate a solid engineering team, in addition to being able to contribute well at the broader business level. That combo is extremely tough to find, and there's very few people out there that do it extremely well.
There's a lot of engineers, and to get your company started and your product out the door, you don't even need a really good engineer, because you'll rewrite it if you get money and you get successful. You're gonna rewrite it anyways. I agree with Brian at the CTO level, but I actually think it's different, slightly different. The hardest person to define, I'm willing to bet if I made this all right on paper, is product management. And I'll define it, you can define it many different ways. But to me, it's where the business and the marketing requirements meet being able to communicate and talk to the engineers. And to do that well, you gotta get what they're building, and you gotta be able to talk to the engineers and preferably know how to code a little bit. Enough that they don't want you to, but you can really communicate with them. You damn okay, but I'll go fix it, and then you hear them scream, then you got the person. But that skill, and I think that's what's special about this program here, and what I think is really cool. When I met these guys, for me, I start to get involved. One, it's Northeastern. I went here, my dad teaches here, my mom taught here, blah, blah, blah. It's an inroads to people who are getting a degree in exactly what's the hardest skill to find. 2 years in it going, still haven't found that person. What happens to great product people is they become CEOs and founders of companies, present company included over there with Brian down there at the end. It's the hardest skill. You see everything in a business. The founders of Going were product managers. The founders of Conduit Labs, and Nabil, who was supposed to be here, was my VP of product at my last company. They're the people who are the most dangerous because they can code enough if they have to, they can talk to engineers, and they get the business. That skill, this program, is exactly the core DNA. It's the second baseman, the shortstop, center fielder, and the catcher, and the pitcher, right strong up the middle. It's the most important, it's the linchpin of a successful startup.
Launch change and build the most kick-ass team of people to tackle that change. And that's what we've done. And my commitment is to our team, and that team includes our customers, that team includes our investors, that team. And frankly, the day that I go to work and I don't feel like I'm empowering people to get in there and kick ass and make this thing happen, I don't know that I'll keep going. But what I disagree with is that you necessarily have to be, I think it's great that you're passionate about languages, and we probably disagree on this topic. But I think you can probably start a company in a space that you're not necessarily passionate about that space, if you will.
Yeah, you can build a company around anything that's passionate about building a company.
Yeah, exactly. As a founder.
Thank you everybody for being here, especially Matt, Brian, and Karen.